All right, what's up, good people? What's up, good people? We are live and in the building. As you can see, I got a special guest here, as you can see from the title and the thumbnail. So I had to finally start on time today. Got a special guest. Couldn't be late today. Couldn't be late today. We will be joined by the Crimson Cure. A lot of you know who she is. You don't need that much of an introduction around these parts, but you know what it is. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming in the building. I already see some new people in the building. Yeah, see, I'm already seeing a few new names I haven't seen before. That's good. I'm glad y'all coming on out. So yeah, make sure y'all hit the like button as you make it into the building. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's get this thing started. Let's get ready to go. Let's get it.
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mumia Obsidian Ali. You know who I am. I need no introduction, right? And you're listening to the Grown Man Hour with my man Bernard Riley, heard weekdays right here on YouTube. What do you think about that? How about that? Now let's get back on with the show. Thank you.
All right, what's up, everybody? Like I said in the pre-intro ramble, we're going to be joined by Crimson Cure. I like to shout out everybody who makes it in bright and early, the early bird squad, as I call it. Those of you who come on in, hit the like button, drop a comment before we even get things started. I do appreciate each and every one of you. Shout out to Othaniel Theodale Reed. I hope I got that right. He says, ready for this. Deacon Dave in the building. Carl in the building says, I only came because of the Sisters of the Crimson Cure. I hope I didn't offend anyone. Of course not. Any of the supporters by that? Of course not. Of course not. Logan JJ in the building. He said, this show is going to be fire. I love Crimson Cure channel and her talking points. Absolutely. And Lydia, I'm not even going to botch your last name, but shout out to Lydia. She says, here to support the Crimson Cure, such a wonderful queen. Shout out to you, Bowdy Thug, Big Mag the Fisher, Spliffy Minded, Rebel Zoe 1804 in the building, Uneducated Lane, Patreon and channel member. I've been doing some work on the Patreon end of things. Yeah, I need to go over there and check it out. Been having some good discussions with a special in-studio guest. So yeah, go and check that out. I think I know what I'm talking about there. But shout out to everybody. Queen Q in the building. Shout out to the talented Mr. Heat in the building. Says good day to the Crimson Cure and BR. Yes, absolutely. Shout out to all of y'all in the building. But without further ado, we're going to bring up the special guest of honor, long overdue. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing this morning, Bernard? Hey, everybody. How y'all feeling? Hope y'all feeling good.
We're feeling wonderful. We're feeling wonderful. And oh shoot, I still got I's I haven't dotted and T's I haven't crossed. I do that every morning. Spilling coffee all over the place, but no, I'm definitely glad to have you here. As I this is my first time speaking to you in real time since your channel has just blown up. I've congratulated you, in passing in chat rooms for your growth, but I just want to formally say congratulations on the growth of your channel. You definitely was laboring for a while, and yeah, if anybody deserved a breakthrough like that, it definitely was you. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
Right. Let's get into this thing. Let's hop right into it. We're going to be talking about Black women and spirituality. And one thing that I talked about, because I remember when I had Black Ram 313 on here, I asked him about Nation of Islam women, and nobody's more critical when it comes to Black women than Black Ram 313. But he gave a pretty good report for them. So I was somewhat shocked and impressed by that. I thought if anybody was going to see some underlining problems, it would be him. But starting out, and a lot of times Black people get confused by this, but are you an Orthodox Muslim or Nation of Islam? Like what are you?
I've always been Orthodox.
I always thought so, but I just wanted to be sure about that.
Yeah, a lot of people have to ask me that. But
what would you say, and I know this is a broad question, but what would you say is the biggest distinction about that? Especially coming from a female, from a woman's perspective. I hate that term, a woman's perspective, but especially coming from a woman's perspective on that. What would you say is the biggest distinction or difference with that?
The difference is in the belief system, actually. Even though they go by Nation of Islam, they actually have a different core belief than Orthodox Muslims. Nation of Islam actually believe that W. Muhammad was Allah in the flesh, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a prophet. The Orthodox Muslims don't believe that. First of all, we don't believe that Allah comes anywhere in the quote unquote flesh. And then we also only believe that the Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet. The Prophet Muhammad of Arabia was the last prophet to come to the earth, and there aren't going to be any more of them. So that's actually the biggest distinction between Orthodox Muslims and Nation of Islam. So that's where that difference comes from.
Okay. How long have you been practicing Orthodox Islam?
About 26 years, since 1996. What has that been? 25 years, 26 years? Yep.
Oh, okay. And I take it before that you were a Christian.
Yeah, I grew up missionary Baptist. My church, if anybody is familiar with Chicago, my church was the Church of the Living God on 60th and Union in Inglewood. That's the church my grandfather pastored at. And my all of us grew up in the church. I was in the choir, the whole 9 yards. I was doing everything because my whole family was Christian. My mother was, a PK, preacher's kid or whatever. So that just was in my family or whatever. So at around 13, I decided, let me read the Bible, because I just want to understand it.
Sometimes that's your biggest mistake right there, just actually opening it up and reading it. Sometimes that's the worst thing you could actually do, but go ahead.
That's what I did. I said, because I don't like not understanding things. I don't like just doing stuff because somebody else told me I should, without actually understanding why for myself, why I would do that. So I said, okay, well, if we're Christian, which when I started doing that, I didn't have any intention on not being a Christian. I was just trying to read because I was trying to be able to pay attention in church to what was actually going on. It's because I had gotten old enough to stop playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. And by the time I read it from cover to cover, I was like, oh, preacher don't know what he's talking about.
Man.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that exact feeling. I went through a crisis of some sort. I guess I'll just call it that, when I actually start really digging in there and reading it. And yeah, so I definitely understand that feeling. So let's get into, well, dang, I kind of want to stay there a little bit. When you were a Christian, well, no, they'll where I'm trying to go with it, the two things, they'll overlap, because we talk a lot about, on your channel, you definitely spend a lot of time breaking down all the varying pathologies, this whole psychology of Black women, and a lot how they think, why they do a lot of things that they do. But quite often we normally look at that from a lot of times a social or cultural standpoint. That's how we tend to look at those things. How much of it should be looked at through a spiritual lens, especially when you look at the very flimsy way in which Black women, but Black people in general, really practice Christianity? It's just very, very flimsy. So how much of that should be looked at through more of a spiritual lens when we really breaking down and analyzing, what Black women do and how they conduct themselves and all of that?
It should be looked at from its root as a spiritual issue, because yes, it's cultural. Yes, it's environmental, right? So we understand that in Black culture, it's more or less matriarchal, or a loose matriarchy, or even a backwards matriarchy. Women kind of run things, even though none of us really like that. And it hasn't done us any good, right? So that's cultural for us, and it gets reinforced through media and music and TV and all of this other type of stuff. I've been harping lately on the show Harlem. I think somebody said, I heard a rumor about they were trying to remaster The Color Purple, as if we need that reintroduced.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. They are rebooting The Color Purple. They got the cast and everything together. Yeah, they ready to go.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Yeah.
We didn't need it the first time. Thank you, Oprah. We didn't need that the first time. And then environmentally, right? When we talk environmentally, we're talking about the institutions. We're talking about the legalese, right? So women will utilize legal means to do things. And it's talked about a lot in this space, about divorces, about alimonies, child supports, and all of the things that happen in a legal way. But what we don't talk about is the biological component. And spirituality falls underneath the biological, because what we believe falls under a person's biology. It's not just their physical self, it's what's inside of them, what they think, how they perceive the world, their worldview. And a lot of people's worldview is shaped either by the presence of some spirituality or the lack thereof. So when we start talking about issues that Black women are a part of, things that they do, it is that lack of spirituality. Because when we think about, and when I say spirituality, I'm not necessarily just talking about a set religion, right?
Okay.
Or it got to be Christianity, or it's got to be Islam. I'm talking about a person having that moral compass, a person having a set of principles that they stick to and that they adhere to, that they rely on for the truth, if that makes sense. So when I talk about spirituality, I try not to pigeonhole a particular religion, mainly because my audience isn't all one thing anyway. But rounding back to the question, it definitely needs to be looked at from a spiritual standpoint, because your spiritual base is where your principles come from. That's where your moral compass comes from. Those are the things that inform what we do or what we don't do, why and why not. So, for example, I wouldn't keep my children away from their father just because him and I relationship didn't work, because it's wrong. Regardless of the fact that institutionally I could do that. The courts allow me to do that. The law of the land allows me to do that, or it at least allows me to manipulate it so that it can happen. If I don't have any spiritual base that tells me, or any moral compass that tells me that's actually wrong, and so despite the law of the land, my personal moral compass says, no, I can't do that. If I don't have that, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm going to do whatever the law allow me to do.
Right.
And legal and illegal doesn't have anything to do with right and wrong. Those are two different things. Just because something is legal doesn't make it right. And just because something is illegal doesn't make it wrong. So a lot of Black women put things on legal and illegal to remove the pressure of the accountability of right and wrong, if that makes sense. I hope I answered.
No, I definitely understand where you're coming from on that. But see, now this is one slight problem I have, and even though I understand exactly what you meant when you said that, okay, you legally can keep a father away from the child, but if you have some spiritual grounding, it won't exactly. You won't do that because you're leaning on your spiritual grounding. And this is one slight problem I have with religious doctrines. Like they weren't dealing with it from that standpoint. The woman, it was a foreign concept that I'm not even sure. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not even sure if any religious doctrine would even address the notion of a woman keeping a child from the father, because it was just so unheard of. She was attached to that man, and the kid is attached to her, so they were all attached to him. So it
Islam
wasn't even
actually addresses it.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said Islam actually addresses it.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, explain.
Women cannot keep their children from their husbands, because children belong to the husbands, not the women. Children don't belong to the mothers. They belong to fathers. Children are always their father's financial responsibility. They are always their father's protective responsibility. They are always that. So, for instance, in the case of a divorce, a man A, woman A, and they got 3 children. He divorces her because really in Islam, it takes a whole lot for a woman to divorce a man. It is not easy. So he divorces her on some ground. Okay. After certain things take place, and when I say certain things, there is a waiting period of 3 months. And the 3 months, within that 3 months, he's supposed to supply for her the way he's always been. Whatever bills was being paid, whatever, supply for her so that she can get on her feet, so that she can leave. Because a lot of times Muslim wives aren't working. They don't have their own money. So he's allowing her to get an opportunity to get herself together, because just because he's divorcing her doesn't mean she's not Muslim anymore and that she's not human anymore. So he's doing that for that specified amount of time. There also, that amount of time allows for any pregnancy to be discovered if there is one. But let's say there's no pregnancy and the 3 months is up and the divorce is final. They have children, especially if those children aren't suckling, then she has to give those children to the husband, and he has to deal with them. He raises them. This allows her to do whatever she has to do to get herself together in life to move on. She can still be their mom. She doesn't ever stop being their mom. But at the same time, the children have never been her financial responsibility anyways. And so therefore, in the Islam is patriarchal. So the lineage, they're his lineage. They're his. So if she gets married again, her new husband doesn't have to worry about oh, this is another man's child that I'm raising, and he's raising his own children. So Islam actually does address it.
Wow. Yeah, I'm impressed by that one. I mean, I didn't expect that one at all. I've read the Bible. I've skimmed over the Quran, so I didn't. Yeah, so I'm definitely impressed by that one. Appreciate people supporting the stream. Do appreciate each and every one of y'all. I'm not well. Okay, I'll do some reading of super chats, but I'm very skeptical of what Snuggles is right in here. She said, Bernard, shall we start off right for the guest of honor? And please do not let me down. And how are you doing, Miss Crimson Cure? Snuggles, I'm not playing the Snuggles Bear thing today. We're not doing that. But I'll bring it back tomorrow. But shout out to Theo Waff in the building. It says more collaborations like this, please. Absolutely. I will definitely be trying to get some good collaborations coming on in the future. Be patient. I'm working on it. And shout out to Great Britain in the building. He says, small token of my appreciation of this interview. If Islam law, when there is a divorce, the children go with the man, it defeats the Western family court law bias and instills a man take responsibility. 100. Absolutely. Thank y'all for those super chats. I do appreciate everybody who support the stream. Make sure y'all hit the like button if you haven't done that already. We are joined by the Crimson Cure. Man, you definitely said some good stuff right there. In this Western world, and again, shout out to Big Mac the Fixture. He said, keep working, Crimson Cure and BR. School is in session. Absolutely. In this Western world, okay, and when it comes to religion and faith traditions and all of that, I don't want to bring too much of my personal into it, but I'm pretty. That's one of the areas where I'm pretty liberal, and I don't dig too deep into it, but I understand the importance of it. So, as far as it goes with women, how important is it for them to have a faith tradition? Because it's funny, me and my woman, we were just recently talking about this. We've been talking on my Patreon. I'm not putting that out on the public part, but we've been talking on my Patreon, and that was one of the random questions that came up where she asked me a question, I asked her a question, and we basically just talking about our relationship, and we ended up stumbling across that, and so we had a little back and forth about the importance of it for a woman or a man, for that matter, to have some type of faith tradition. But we're talking about women here, so how important is it for a woman to be grounded in that, or can we do like what a lot of secular people are basically saying, today, where you can have as long as you have a code of some sort, as long as you have some type of morality, some type of moral code that you subscribe to, or how important is it, that versus having an actual, grounded faith tradition? How important is it for a woman, particularly a Black woman, to have that in this modern Western world?
I actually think it's pretty important to have for everybody, like you said, not just women, but since we're focusing on women, yes. And the reason why I say so, and some people might not agree with this next thing, but I say so in terms of not just having some spirituality, but have something structured like Islam or the true practice of Christianity because of its order, because there is a law attached to it. And the reason why that's important specifically for women is because we're naturally chaotic. And when I say chaos, I don't necessarily mean bad, but what I do mean is an absence of order, right? When things don't have order, they become chaotic. So if you walk into your child's room and your child's room look like a tornado hit it, that just means there's no order to it. Toys aren't put up, clothes aren't put up. And so when you tell your kid, clean this room, what you're telling them is to put it in order. Take it out of chaos and put the things in order so that so you can find what you need and get what you need. And it's not looking like this. So women are naturally chaotic. we naturally fall out of order because that's what we are. That's who we are. That's just what women are. And so that structure that actually comes from a sect, something like Islam or something like Christianity or something like that, actually helps women to maintain some type of order, even in the absence of having direct contact with men or their father or their husbands or some man that would actually bring the order. So in the absence of that, because a woman may find herself in the absence of that at some point in her life, because things don't go perfectly. We don't go perfectly from our father's house to our husband's house. Maybe 200 years ago we did, but not in 2022 we don't. So we actually do need to have some sort of order. And it's important not only from the standpoint because we are chaotic and easily fall into, oh, well, I kind of do what I want to do. And I don't have any rules or regulations. So I can just kind of be free, because you hear women say that feminism is like built on that. We just need to be free and no one can judge anybody. That's female chaos talk.
Yeah.
That's all that is. And this is why people equate it with childlike behavior, because it is kind of childlike. Children are in chaos, which is why they need parents, which is why they need rules and regulations, because if you leave a child to their own devices, they will be out of order because they just do what they want to do. So it's really important for women to have that spiritual tradition to actually keep us in some type of line so that we don't get into spaces where we rationalize every behavior that we have. Whether it's right, wrong, and then we blur the lines between what's right and wrong. So you hear women, oh, well, it's okay for us to do this and that because how I feel. It's okay to do this and that because my emotions, which when you counter that, they say, oh, well, you can't invalidate my feelings. Nobody's trying to, but we are putting them in order. They can't be allowed to just run everything because emotions don't have logic. Emotions don't have order. They're purely a chaotic thing because it's an abstract thing. So women are running like their life on emotions. Feminism is based on emotions, not order, not sense, not logic, because a lot of things that feminism purports is illogical. It doesn't have any root in reality, doesn't have any root in truth. We're actually living in an entire society with an entire mindset that's based on a lot of half-truths, lies, and narratives. And people are like running with that. And women like it because it feeds into the chaotic nature that we actually have. Did I answer that question? Because I'll ramble.
No, you got it. You don't know you answered it. You answered it. I know sometimes it gets like that. You get going. I understand that. But no, you definitely answered the question. Shout out to Sir Tyson in the building. He says, agree with Theo. Salute Bernie and Crimson Cure. More shows like this. Absolutely, absolutely. And my man, Rod of God podcast. Got a lot of respect for this brother, channel member and patron. He says, shout out to the, you throwing me off. I don't know what that is. Alley of the Year nominee, Crimson Cure. I don't know what that is. You got to explain that in the chat room. I don't even think she don't even look like she know what it is.
No, he's saying I'm the ally of the year.
Oh, my fault. I'm tripping. Okay, I need to adjust some things. Okay, all right. My bad. My bad. Yeah, bear with me. I know I'd be tripping, even though I did fix my setup before. I used to have a problem where my monitor was too far back and I couldn't see nothing, and I used to be squinting. I'm not squinting as much now, but I'm still messing up. All right, Charles Merchant in the building. Shout out to each and every one of you. Make sure y'all hit the like button. But no, that was definitely a good answer to that one. Do you think Islam is the ideal faith for Black people? And this is a tough one, and we're probably gonna lose some of the audience on this one because we Black folks, we love our Jesus, so so you probably gonna lose some people on this one.
We love Jesus.
Do you
love
think
Jesus. We sure do.
all right, well, let's just put the question out there. Do you think Islam is the ideal faith tradition for Black Americans?
Well, of course, I'm gonna say yeah.
Okay.
Now I know
your hold on, your bias aside, I guess make the case as to why.
The reason why I'm saying yeah isn't just because I'm Muslim, but because a lot of the law. Let me explain something. There's two halves to Islam. There's the spiritual part where you believe in Allah and you believe in the Quran and you believe in all of the spiritual parts of that, which actually Muslims and Christians share more than they differ. And then there's the law, the legal part, because Islam has an entire legal system as well that you don't necessarily have to be Muslim to follow. It's not required that you believe in Allah in order to follow the structure of the law. The law works anywhere. And so that's really why I'm saying yeah, because if we just taking the law about divorce, the law about where the children go, if we just implemented that, how many issues are resolved? Now we don't have a single mother issue rampant in our community. We'll have that. There's no incentive to get divorced really for either party because there's no such thing as a no-fault divorce. There's no such thing as a woman just going and talking about, oh, well, I just want to live my life and we've grown apart. No, go back home to your husband. Nobody talking to you about that. Talking about you want to live your life. You are living your life at home with your husband. Bye. Unless you can present a real reason why you gotta go, you can't go. Right? So that's out. So there's really the only incentive is really to keep the family together. That's the real incentive because women don't win when they leave their husbands or when they get divorced. They don't really win in Islam because there's not really no alimony and there's nothing to get for leaving. You just leave. That 3 months isn't even really money in your hand. It's money that he's already been spending to take care of you. So it's not going to hurt him to do that for 3 more months while y'all figure everything out. If you had money or inheritance, then you take that and you go. You know what I'm saying? If you were independently wealthy as a woman, that's fine. Take your money and go. And you can live how you can live. So just that small part, which isn't small, actually helps bring the family or keep the family in most cases together. Now, that's not to say Muslims don't divorce because they do. It is a such thing as divorce. But at the same time, no one is incentivized actually to do it. No one is given anything or any gift or money or anything to say, you know what, if you divorce, you'll be able to get, no, actually you won't. So you might as well stay unless there's some type of real issue happening that can't be resolved. You can't resolve it. It's tearing the family apart anyway. It's probably better that the two people split. And the children, if there are any, go with the father. You as the mother, you come visit, because men rarely have the incentive or the inclination to keep children from their mothers. It's women in this society, in this climate, that's actually incentivized to do that. Men don't really have that. They kind of want the mama to come get them. You get them.
Right.
Or whatever, you come. So just that alone. And then when we take things in Islamic law and apply them, we actually get rid of probably about 90% of the common issues that we face as a community. And I'm sticking on the family one because that's where we really are troubled we don't really create families to begin with.
Right.
We don't create whole families. We create single mamas and baby daddies and broken situations before they can ever be whole. So that's why I be calling cap when women be talking about men walked away from the family. You didn't create a family. You didn't walk away from what wasn't there. Okay, you didn't secure anything before you started carrying kids and doing all this other stuff. You didn't even make sure y'all was in a relationship before you started doing that. So he not walking away from anything. Nothing was settled.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on that one. That's one of the ones I get the most
That
triggered.
triggers you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't get triggered much, but I get the most triggered on that because that's the one, because if you've ever, because even if it was a situation where it was an actual family there, I do know through talking to several lawyers on this and looking at my own experience, men quite often will fight for, majority of the time, they're fighting for at least 50-50 custody, 1 week with me, 1 week with you. And in this world we living in, okay, I mean that's fair. 150, half the time with me, half the time with you. The woman will say, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, well, the woman will say that he left the family or he left the kids. But when he's there fighting to have the kids half the time, who does he have to fight? He has to fight the woman who's accusing him of being the one that left. So when he's fighting to get the kids half the time, he has to fight you to not be restricted to in every other weekend Uncle Dad. But then you're still charging him up with leaving the kids. That triggers the for personal reasons and just looking at it from just a wide lens macro scale, that still triggers me. But it also personally triggers me because I've been through that fight. So I've fought and won I lost like a few rounds of it and then came back and eventually won in the custody thing. And I know how hard it is to fight and how expensive it is. And that one. Yeah, you touch. Don't be touching sore spots over here. I don't be red pill raging, but that's the only thing that can get me. That's the only thing that can get me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But shout out to Great Britain in the building. He says for order and structure, absolutely. Big Mac. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you read. I'm sorry.
Okay. Big Mac the Picture in the building. He says, I've seen no religion, more culture, and produce more proper Black people than Muslims. The NOI and the 5% nation of gods and earth. Thank you for the super chat. Do appreciate that. Go ahead. You're about to say something.
And just to kind of round out and stick on another point, why Islam would be ideal. All of this grape culture that women complain about, Me Too's and harassments and this and that, all of that is over with. See, women don't understand that when they're asking for maximum protection, you need to be, y'all are actually kind of asking for Sharia law and don't know y'all asking for it because it splits the genders. Like we wouldn't even be able to work alongside men in so many cases. We wouldn't be able to work alongside men because it would be split by gender. Even school is split by gender. So after a certain point, after you a toddler or whatever, and you start getting into puberty, you start having to split. The boys can't be with the girls can't be with the boys. Now, girls can still go to school because you're going to need female doctors. You're going to need, females to be in certain fields, right? You want women to be midwives and you want women to be OB-GYNs and things of that nature, because under an Islamic setup, you don't want no man looking at your wife's, hello kid, trying to figure nothing out. So, so the women do go to school. We do all of those things, but we do them separately. We're not somewhere trying to infringe on things that the men do, like sports, trying to get women to be, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So in that way, you actually have a safeguard for the men and the women. The women don't have to worry about men being quote unquote creepy to them. And men don't have to worry about women coming somewhere and just because he did something that she interprets a certain way, now all of a sudden he's got to talk to HR and possibly lose his livelihood or something like that because she said he came in the bathroom. See, we don't have all of this mixing of the bathrooms, and you identify with being a cat. This one over here identify with being a bird. So we not having none of that. None of that. All of that is over with. All of that is squashed. That's why I'm saying bias. Yes, I'm biased.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying that it actually would be ideal because Islam actually specifically addresses that stuff. It's not loose to interpretation. It's actually there. Like, okay, you can't do this. You can do that. And it's a safeguard. And people say it's restrictive, and it is restrictive. But that's what safeguards, rules, and regulations are. They restrict.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that later, whether or not it's too restrictive for the modern Black woman. We definitely going to get into that one. One thing I gotta ask you: ever since your channel has taken off the way that it has, I know you've always got criticism from Black women. Something I didn't even think prior to when I was setting up this interview and everything. What kind of have you received? I mean, your channel is getting big to the point. I mean, I don't know if it's at the level of you receiving threats or anything like that. But is the sisterhood coming at you like 10 times harder for what you're doing right now with your channel blowing up the way it is?
Yeah, I get a lot. I get more comments than I do anything.
Okay.
They're very triggered. I delete a lot of them. Some of them get through because I got like little trigger words. You know how you set it up and then comments are held for review and all of that. I just, they write them novels, and I do get a particular pleasure in deleting them before they can hit the airwaves. Haha, you sat there and wrote all of that, but nobody's gonna see it because I'm gonna delete it.
Do you even read it first, or you just delete it after the first line?
Because the Gemini in me is very nosy. So I do want to read it because I'm nosy. I know they got something slick to say. So yeah, I will read them sometimes, unless they too long and stupid. Then it's like, okay, I'm done. But yeah, they actually are quite triggered. They do come harder at me now than they did before, because even though I was talking about them before, channel small, so it's not really reaching a whole lot of people, so they're not really bothered by it. But when your channel get bigger and your reach get bigger, now they're bothered because it's like, wait a minute, people are listening to this. She's not some channel with 3,000 or 4,000 people as a subscriber. She's crossed over I'm about to cross the 60,000 mark soon. Yeah. So it's like, oh no, wait a minute, who is this individual? You know what I'm saying? And then I don't like what she's doing. I get a lot of you bashing Black women. The usual suspects. All of the stuff that the men get, we get that. Women who speak a certain way, we get all of that. So it's not really this thing where women are really sitting down listening to other women. No, they're not. There's only a few. The women who don't like it still don't like it. They don't like it coming out of nobody's mouth. And the reason why they really don't like it is because only the truth can expose a lie, right? So if we telling the truth about something, then that takes the lie away, that takes the cover away, that takes my ability to rationalize or to dodge accountability or to dodge responsibility for the things that I do. I can't just hide behind these various narratives and things of that nature to excuse what I do or to make it be okay. So if someone is sitting around telling the truth about what I'm doing, then I got to be able to shut that down in some way, shape, or form so that I can continue the foolishness that I do. Basically.
All right. Definitely. You kind of already touched. Well, you know what? I want to stick with something that you kind of already touched on. We'll roll right into it. The restrictive nature of Islam, because Christianity, let's just face it, is practiced in a very flimsy way. It's people. I'm not even going to bring up something that was horrible. It was a woman doing something really, really, really horrible on camera with another man on a particular website with a "Only God Can Judge Me" tattoo on while she was doing it. I mean, it's like that's how modern Christians or women in this modern time, that's how they view Christianity. Is very, 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 very flimsy. Just repent. Just do what you want to do. Nobody can judge you. Only God can judge you. Just repent and then go back and do the same stuff again the next day. That's how they're doing it, and that feels good to them. When you're talking about Islam, do you think that practiced in the traditional sense, that it's just way too restrictive for modern Black women to the point to where it's just going to be a complete non-starter out the gate? Like you can't even entertain the idea of getting it to the masses to some degree, like, because it's too restrictive, non-starter. Do you think that's the case?
A lot of people would think that, yeah, it's too restrictive. And I would have to agree. For the modern woman, the way that a lot of her mindset is set up, a lot of the things that she believes, a lot of the things that she wants to do or thinks she wants to do or told she wants to do, Islam either doesn't allow it or it only allows it under certain circumstances. So yeah, it definitely would be restricted. I mean, they don't want to cover up. They like going outside with everything hanging out, and then I call themselves get mad if a man be staring at it. But it's sitting there though, like what he's supposed to do. You got him sitting there, Tata's just hitting your chin. And he gonna look because that's what he do. Why wouldn't he look? You went to Tijuana to get a BBL, okay, for $800. You came back.
800.
I'm just throwing something out there.
I think they get them done in Keisha's basement for $800. I think it costs more if you go.
That too. Shaquanda hooked you up, and y'all came through, and so you wear the tightest jeans possible or the shortest dress or whatever to show it off. So when guys look, you be like, girl, he creepy, girl. All he doing is staring at my butt. You went to go get a butt so that men could stare at it. Like you did that on purpose. Nobody had a gun in your head. You did that. See, it's not
she did it. But she did it for her so she could feel better.
So she could feel empowered.
Yeah, yeah. That was her empowerment. That's why she did it, to empower herself to feel better. That's
right. And so I don't know why all the empowerment has to do with sex, but okay. But Islam.
Let's stay there. Hold on. Let's stay there. Explain that. That's a good one. We've talked about that on my show. Why does all the female empowerment either has to do with sex or it has to do? I mean, sometimes it has to do with they'll talk about, really high up corporate executive positions where they get to, have their name as the figurehead, large and in charge, on some fancy title. Sometimes it's either a fancy title, but the fancy title aside, all the female empowerment movement, all of that, it's about sex. Break that down. What's your thoughts on that?
It's about the freedom to be a thought and not be judged on being a thought. A lot of this, it went from suffragettes and voting to sexual liberation. So what was sexual liberation? What is that? What are you being liberated from? Because nobody told women that they couldn't have sex, right? Nobody said that. But you have to be, anytime you're liberated from something, that means there was a restriction before. So the restriction was social. A woman 200 years ago, let's say 150, 200 years ago, she needed the permission of her family, of her father, what have you, to get married so that she could have sex, right? And so that was a standard in society. It was accepted. It was accepted. You didn't do casual sex. That casual sex really was for the brothel.
Mm-hmm.
The men went to different underground places where he knew the brothels were, and he went over there because he knew he didn't have to marry them women. He knew those women didn't have covering. Those women didn't have the cover and the protection of their families for whatever reason. Maybe they were dead. Maybe she was outcast, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he went there. Now, when he wanted a wife, he didn't go over there.
Mm-hmm.
He went and he came courting to whatever woman he thought was attractive, and it came from a good family. So he began to talk to her family so that he could talk to her. She needed permission from her family to engage this man. Once they did that, if it went the way everybody wanted it to go, they got married. You have all the sex you want under the confine of marriage, because nobody cares at that point, because she's in a position of honor at that point. No one's looking at her sideways. Are you having sex with your husband? Like, nobody's doing that because she's married. Okay, yeah, so she comes up with a kid. Obviously, this is her husband's child. Obviously, they're in a relationship, a marriage together, right? So now that's the restriction. You don't get to choose your mate on your own as a woman. You have to have these things in place that help you and the men in your life, specifically your father, if he's not alive, your grandfather or your older brother. There's some man somewhere that actually has a say-so in that, whether or not you can marry this guy. He's vetting that man really before you get to him and saying, dude, no, you can't court her. Bye. You on that flim flam anyway. Bye. You know what I'm saying? You can't court my daughter. Or, yeah, I like you, young man. Come on. You can talk to her. So, okay. But when you talk about sexual liberation, what is that? I don't want to be under any restriction where the men in my life, after I'm an adult, still tell me what to do.
Yeah.
With my body and my rights and my this and my that. So, okay, you fight for that. We do the whole thing. Now we're at a point where, okay, your father don't have a right. It's not even culturally acceptable anymore that a woman's father, when she's 19, 20, 21, 22, he gets to dictate to her which husband or which man she can be with or can't be with. That's not even acceptable no more. That's like unheard of. If people look at you weird if that's the setup that you have at this point. So now women are able to choose their own partners. But what are they choosing them based on? First of all, they're not getting married anymore to the rate that they used to be getting married, right? Now you're giving away milk for free because you want to be able to approach sex the way you think men approach it. Which was not always the case. Oh, it's easy for men to get women. It hasn't necessarily always been like that because he had to get married to her. So it's a whole responsibility that comes with it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was people sneaking and stuff like that back in the day too. But overall, it wasn't acceptable to just be sneaking around. That's where shotgun marriages come from. Oh, you got her pregnant? Y'all was sneaking around? Y'all gonna be married. Boop, what you thought? Thought you was gonna be able to get away with that one. You can't do it. So that's where all that comes from. But now you got a situation where there's no strings attached. We don't have to be anything. We don't have to be married. We don't have to be committed to one another. We can see one another. I like you. You like me. Let's go over here. Let's hook up. And can't nobody say nothing, because as long as we grown and as long as we consenting adults and blah, 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 can't nobody say nothing. But then what bothered the women, and I know I'm going on long, but what bothered the women was the social stigma didn't go anywhere, right? The social stigma of women being loose and promiscuous didn't go anywhere. Men still think of women in that way, even though he's taking advantage of the now free sexual market. Now, I don't have to marry a chick to get with her, to have sex with her. That's fine. Men like that. Like, oh, okay, all y'all gonna do it. Oh, okay, fine, cool. You know what I'm saying? We good with that. But at the same time, in the back of a man's mind, that social stigma didn't go anywhere. He still thinks of you a certain way because he knows or he figures that you're doing this everywhere. So you still kind of a thought. And so he still might not marry you because he figures, even in this climate, that is something going on with you, that you're allowing yourself to be utilized sexually by X amount of men throughout your lifetime. And you probably started at 16 or 17 with that, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. So women's fight is to remove the biology of men, to change his biological wiring so that he shouldn't slut shame me. But he's going to. You can say culturally he shouldn't do it, and he might not in the open, right? At work, he not gonna say it, you know, because he don't want you calling HR on him. But you ain't gonna stop what he think in his head when he looks at you. It's not gonna stop, and he's going to actually treat you according to what he thinks about who you are. Whether you think that's right or wrong, he's still gonna do it. So the biology of men isn't gonna change. That's what they trying to be liberated from. See, there's no stigma on men. If a man conquer a bunch of chicks, ain't nobody looking at him like, ugh, he nasty. Ain't nobody looking at him like that. But women, they are, and they say, it's not fair. It doesn't have to be fair. Life's not fair. Okay, there are double standards for just about everything. So you just deal with it. You're not going to be able to sow your wild oats, first of all, because you don't have oats, ladies. All right, you don't have a seed, beloved, because you're a woman. Okay, so you're not planting your seed anywhere. You're the soil. Don't even get me started on that, because they like to try to change the biology for that too, and that doesn't change either. So I hope I'm not too far away from the question. They definitely, it's restrictive to them because it takes too much stuff away from them.
Yeah. Ryan Decipher in the building says, just showing support. Shout out to the Crimson Cure. Definitely appreciate you, Ryan Decipher. And Kenneth Williams in the building with a super sticker. And brother PDAT in the building says, definitely too restrictive for the modern woman. They are offended by any suggestion that they embrace or promote virtue. I'm not talking just about religion. Even secular virtues are repulsive to them. Thank you for the super chat. I do greatly appreciate that. And people, I'm assuming that the moderators are on their job. I can't see the YouTube end of the chat room. I only got the StreamYards up, but y'all know how to do when we got a guest. You know, hopefully y'all getting people out of here if they in here on some nonsense. But so yeah, shout out to the moderators. Do appreciate y'all. Hopefully everything is going well. Shout out to Little Big Nate down in the building, and down there in the chat room in the building. He says liberals are going to hate Crimson Cure. Absolutely. So let's talk about one thing that we talked about on here before, and we're talking about Black women and spirituality and everything right now. And when it comes to the Christian church, that's pretty much masculine Black men has pretty much been ran out of the Christian church. What role does Christianity play in the way that that a lot of modern Black women are conducting themselves? You could take, I mean, it's two-part question. I want to talk about the role Christianity plays, and we kind of already touched on that, so you could deal more with how or why when it comes to Christianity, because you used to be a Christian, and what did you see, what did you observe there that ultimately led to Black men pretty much being completely vacant when it comes to the church, and then black women are there doing their, only God can judge me brand of Christianity. What I can't even see you on the screen, but I can hear you laughing. so go because I pulled up a different screen because I was trying to find my notes. But I'm just hearing you over there. I'm hearing you over there laughing, but I can't see you. So go ahead. What's on your mind from what I said so far? It's clearly something trying to come out of you.
Well, okay. When I was still in the church, because even though I started my spiritual journey at 13, I didn't actually leave Christianity until I was like 16, 17. And so while I was still there, men were still in charge of the church.
Okay.
Although there was this kind of filtering in, because, okay, when I was growing up, you didn't really have female preachers, right? Female pastors. That was real rare. And we always looked at them churches sideways, like y'all say, y'all got a female pastor and she doing what in the pulpit? Y'all following her? And it never struck us as sexist, right? What it did was, it was like, okay, this isn't really biblical though. Men are supposed to be the leaders, and therefore a pastor is a leader. So therefore it's supposed to be a man. And the reason why it was so odd at that time is because women were never shut out of the church. There wasn't a such thing as women didn't have a role in the church. Women actually had very important roles in the church. The church mothers, and things of that nature were highly respected in the Black church. The Black church used to be a place where families came together and we held some sort of value system that was outside of what we considered the corruptness of the worldly, secular world. And so we came to church, even though we were imperfect and we had our own issues, we still came to church in a way where it was like, we're going to listen to the word of God, and we're going to try to have these intact families, and we're going to try to have them the way that we're supposed to have them, or the way that at least we believe God wants us to have them. And that worked for a lot of families. And it didn't make people perfect. It didn't make perfect family structures necessarily, but it did make them more functional. There was less dysfunction. There was less of an incentive. It just wasn't right for a woman to leave her husband just because the church mothers was going to talk to her. If she came in talking about all the things that her husband did wrong, you had an elderly church mother that was been married 50 years to the same man. And she gonna pull her to the side, baby, come in now. What is he doing now? You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. You could try to keep those things together. But as Black women subscribed more and more to feminist and liberal ideas, they started bringing it to the church. And the reason why it was effective is because, like I said, Black women were never shut out of the church. They were never shut out of the functions of the church. And I'm not saying that they should have been. I'm saying, but that's why it was effective, because Black women had a lot of sway in the church. You did respect the first lady. You did respect the church mother. You did respect the elder women of the church. You did respect them. They were the ushers. They was cooking the dinners. They was, you know what I'm saying, counseling the women. They was counseling the kids. They were doing that stuff. And those are highly important roles. So when they started inserting the things that they were getting as a social cue in terms of feminism and liberalism, they automatically brought that to wherever they were. They own families in the home and the churches, because this is where Black women were most active. We used to be, our foremothers were most active in her home and in her church. She was handing out food she was doing that. Black women were doing that. looking after the family. Go call such and such daughter. Is such and such son in jail? Let's get some money together to get the bail, get him out. Lord Jesus, let's go ahead. You know, that's what we did.
Yeah.
That's what our foremothers did. That's what I grew up watching.
Mm.
So as the women became more ingrained in these liberal things, they started reinterpreting or trying to re-envision what their role should be in the church. It was no longer satisfactory to them to be the church mothers or to be the women of the church. Then they wanted to be the men of the church. Well, I should be able to be a pastor. I know the Bible. I should be able to be a deacon. I should be able to run the flock. Why come I can't run the flock? Disregarding the things that's in the Bible about a woman not teaching or leading a flock. Because even in Islam, a woman can't be an imam. We can't stand in front of the congregation of Muslims in a masjid and say nothing. But that doesn't mean we don't have an important role in the masjid and in the Muslim community at large, because we do. But we're expected to be content with that role and not attempt to infiltrate the responsibilities in the realm of the men in this in that sense. And so the men, the more masculine men, did put up a fight, I do believe. Like, wait, we can't be, you know what I'm saying, running around here letting all these women do. But it becomes overwhelming as the not dominant, but as the overwhelming viewpoint became more liberal and more feminist. Even the men, especially the younger men, were indoctrinated to that by their mothers. So the older men either died out because they was old men, or like, you know what, it's too much going on in this church. Let me read my Bible at the house. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be mad at the house. And he took his wife with him. You bet not, you know, call yourself in with these other women. You my wife. You've been my wife for the last 55 years. And you come here. We ain't going back over to the church, but for a little, you know, little functions and stuff like that, we do drop in. And so with that younger sort of generation, Gen X and younger, that really changed the face of the church. It became a place of liberality. Now, because women don't want to be judged for dealing with that feminist mindset, they don't want to be judged. Where are the church mothers? They gone. They either died out, you know what I'm saying, or they're too old to guide the women anymore because the young women not listening to them. So you got more of them coming into the church as single moms, teen moms, you know, without any guidance. And I'm saying Gen X because we were the ones that really got hit after the crack era and all of that. A lot of us became teen mothers and all of that type of stuff. And we tried to come into the church, you know, well, you got to accept them the way they is. Don't turn them out into the street, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. Let the young ladies come in. Let the young men come in. We know it's not right, but we don't want to turn them out into the street. So it came from a sense of benevolence, but at the same time, they couldn't stem the tide of the changes that was going on outside of the church, and it infiltrated inside of the church. Now you got younger men and women that's like they have a different mindset than the greatest generation or even the boomer generation. They got a different mind. They have a different outlook on God and church and the Bible and rules and Jesus and all that. I mean, anytime you come up with a rainbow Bible, it's shot.
Woo. Shout out to the bishop in the building. He says, much respect to you, Bernard. Salute to the Crimson Cure. Got to catch the playback to this epic interview. Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to the bishop. Do appreciate you coming through. Appreciate the super chat. Where are we at here? This is okay. Well, I kind of got my thoughts on this one, but the next question is, if men, or in this case, if Black men were more spiritually grounded, do you think Black women, these modern Black women, would automatically follow behind, would automatically follow suit? What's your thoughts on that one?
No, they're not going to automatically do nothing. That's just like saying if men were more masculine, these women would be automatically submissive. No, just because women are natural followers, that all depends on what they want to follow, though, too.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
while women are natural followers, because whether we want to scream independence or not, even the ones that screaming that from the top of the mountains are highly dependent. Okay. And they're following, because what they're following the trend of the day. If the trend of the day was not feminist, they wouldn't be feminists. You see what I'm saying? If the trend of the day was more traditional, they'd be traditional. Women are natural followers. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we'll just automatically, if Black men were more spiritually grounded, Black women would automatically follow behind. I don't believe that necessarily. Some women would, because women do have the tendency to want to be accepted. And they throw that pick me around, but all women want to be picked. So if Black men raise the standard, there would be a percentage of women that would try to meet it. If it was a spiritual standard, whatever it was. And so, okay, we are righteous men. And so therefore we are only going to deal with righteous women, or women who are on the same trajectory spiritually with us. Then there would be a percentage of women that definitely would do that and be like, okay, let me get on the good foot, because I do want to be able to not only get this man, but this spiritual path is more suited to me. Because every woman that's doing this isn't necessarily wanting to do this. By this, I mean be feminist and be a hyena and stuff like that. A lot of women are doing it because they don't know no other way to be. No other way has been presented to them as viable. So it's like, well, let me just kind of go with the flow. A lot of women are the go along, get along, because that's how women socialize. That's just what we do. So we will go along because it's safety for us in groups. So a lot of women will parrot a talking point or would do the same thing. This is why men see that behavior in women. Why y'all all, be doing the same thing? Why y'all all be, wanting to, we follow trends all the time. The Instagram model. Not every chick want to have that body type. She want to take the picture. She want the attention, because that's how women socialize. Men don't really socialize like that way. So that's like a bioevolutionary thing for us. We've always had protection in the group. So any ostracism of a woman from a group, you literally used to mean her death. So we don't like that. So we don't like being ostracized from the group, even if the group isn't going the right way, right? Even if we think there's a problem with the way that the group is going, we often don't feel at liberty to buck against the group, because again, even bucking against the group because you think the group is wrong ends up in your death. Somehow you lose, right? And I call that women dying the social death. Right? We'll die a social death. We'll be ostracized from the other women when we don't agree. This is why the sisterhood come for me, because I don't agree. I've already died a social death from them. So I'm not included in the group. So anything that group get, I'm not included, whether it's beneficial or not. I'm not included. And a lot of women don't have the intestinal fortitude to do all of that. So they actually have to be guided with security. So that percentage of women will see the security of the men and saying the men want to go that way. And if I agree to go that way with them, then I can still have some security. Even though I'm ostracized from this group, I won't die. So let me go and do that. And let me really do it. And just because we have that doesn't mean we're doing it falsely. We're really doing it truly. Women are truly following feminism. They really do that. Black women really believe that stuff in their heart. Even though it's crazy, right? It's crazy. But 200 years ago, they believed the virtue and the traditional values in their heart too. But it changes. And if the society changes too much, women feel they have to go because that's where our safety is. That's where our life is at. We really can't go. Men can do it. Men can veer off from the society and go on his own, do something else and survive it. Women don't have that luxury. We really can't do that because we are natural followers. So we have to kind of follow trends to a certain degree. But at this point in time, it's too dangerous to keep following the feminist point of view, because that bottom is about to fall out. Women don't really get it, but that's about to fall out because the society that's able to hold that false paradigm is about to fall, unfortunately.
No, good stuff. And like Ryder God saying in the chat room, he said he never thought about it from that angle. No, I don't think I have either. No, you definitely took a good angle on that notion. If men were spiritually grounded, would women automatically follow behind? I hate to use anecdotal situations, but this is something that I've talked about on my show. An example I always give. It's an anecdote, but if you ever watched a documentary on Muhammad Ali, his first wife, he wanted her to essentially join the faith and dress more modest or whatever. Now here she is. She was with the man, heavyweight champion of the world, good looking, physically a physical specimen. He's high up in the leadership on the Nation of Islam. You couldn't ask for a better leader. He's a leader of men. He's a heavyweight champion of the world. All she had to do was not wear short dresses. That was it. That was pretty much all he asked of her, and she just couldn't do it. She just couldn't do it. So that just speaks, even though that's an anecdote, that's just one woman, but it speaks to the notion that there's a percentage of them that are going to be hell-bent on, if the opportunity is there to do what they want to do, and like you said, they're going to follow something. They're going to follow something. It's all about what they're going to choose to follow. It's what they're going to choose to submit themselves to. And sometimes, and if they're left to be in full creative control of what they follow and what they submit to, it's a good chance there's going to be some nonsense. Mm-hmm. So that's what, that's my general.
Chaotic. Whatever we want to do. Just like Megan Good, all she had to do was stop wearing short dresses and she married a whole pastor. I don't know what she thought that man was going to be doing. And she listen, let me tell you something about women. They recognize these men as leaders. They know that. That's why they get with them. That's why they want them. She recognized that man as a leader. She recognized him as her better, which is why she wanted him. She said it. She was like, man, I saw him and it was like unicorns around him or something, you know what I'm saying? And I thought to myself, I'm not good enough for that man. How can I get to that man? And then he paid me some attention and I felt like I had a chance, and I tried to take that chance, shot my shot, and it worked, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. They was married for 9 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's not there anymore. Why? Because even though women are natural followers, she could not. She wanted to. I guarantee you Megan Good wanted to. She wanted to be under that man's leadership. She wanted the order because she knew the order was good for her. She knew it was an upgrade to her. It was bettering her. But she couldn't do it because too much chaos inside, not no spiritual grounding. She didn't really believe it for herself in her heart, the things that he believed. So therefore she couldn't conform to it. And eventually that won out. And it was like, okay, well, you can't really conform, even though we've been trying to get you to do this for such a long time. And now I gotta go because it's just not going to work because as they say, we're unequally yoked. Same thing with Muhammad Ali's first wife. And then I've seen this play out in real life. So yes, it's anecdotal, but that doesn't mean it's not true. So I've seen this play out. I've seen Muslim men try to get women that were not Muslim and try to convert her or whatever.
Yeah, that was a mistake too, by the way. Yeah, that was a mistake on his part.
Trying to get her to see things, see the world his way. And she go along with it because of who that man is. But if she don't never get it in her heart, that's always gonna come back to bite it, because it's like she can't conform. It's gonna be a time where she can't do it. It's like I can't even fake it. Like I can't even play like I'm under this leadership right now, because I'm not. So then he eventually has to let her go, even if it's children involved, even if it's all of that kind of stuff involved. He have to let her go because she never did it anyway. She wasn't down from day one. Not for that. She was just down for the leadership quality she saw in that man, or maybe he's attractive. You know what I'm saying? Or he had things going for himself. So she understood from a logical standpoint, and even from a woman's nature standpoint, I actually need to be underneath this man. I actually need it. But because I can't conform in here, eventually that's going to play out in the dynamic of our relationship. It's going to break it.
All right. Charles Merchant in the building. He says laws and restrictions are an abomination to rebellious people. Promiscuous women reject virtuous women, and fatherless children abhor the offsprings of an intact nuclear family. Thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate that. He said we got dead set anime in the building. Says people of toss around, I think you mean people often toss around spirituality loosely with no connection to history or tradition. I have found that spirituality without the time-tested history, tradition, and discipline of religion is empty. Is there merit in this? That's a question you can answer.
I personally think there's merit in what he said. I don't find a whole lot of usefulness in so-called spirituality without a structure, because without a structure, you can say spirituality is whatever you want it to be, and that in and of itself is chaotic. So from my understanding and from where my standpoint, the concept of God in and of itself is order. And so God doesn't do things without order. Everything in the world got order. The natural, we call it the natural order. It's all got order. The everything, the animal kingdom, all of that has order. Everything has order. The universe has order, right? The earth is 93 million miles away from the sun. Not closer, not further. It's not Jupiter. It's not Mars. It's not Venus. It's not Neptune. It's Earth. And it stays in its orbit. That's order. Everything has order. So anything without order, I find it to be devoid of the truth. But then that's just me.
All right. Great Britain in the building says Adam was the first leader, and even Eve wouldn't listen to him nor God. She followed that trendy snake too. That's funny how you put that. Interesting. Shout out to everybody in the building. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Get out of there, Order 66. Cut it out. Make sure y'all hit the like button, and in the unlikely event that y'all not subscribed to Crimson Cure, make sure y'all go over there and subscribe to her. And I think I believe RM has been posting her Instagram on there as well. Y'all can go and follow her over there as well. All right, let's see. And I'm gonna open up. We ain't doing no wild out crazy panel today, but I will open it up for a person come up at one or two people at a time, maybe one at a time, come up with questions or thoughts, so to speak, but mostly questions. All right, let me see where I'm at. I got a couple more things to get to before we open this thing up, but I can't find. I done lost my notes here. Give me 1 second. Well, we already kind of touched on that. Black women using what black men do or don't do as an excuse to essentially do what they want to do. We already kind of touched on that. So yeah, I'm not going to belabor that. That's something I had written in my notes to more or less talk about the But let's go this route with it. When it comes to Black American Muslim women, what percentage of them would you say you know, meet the mark? Because we talked about the flimsy way that they practice Christianity in that only God can judge me kind of way. But when it comes to Black American Muslim women, which percentage of them would you say hit the mark in terms of, you know, their faith, the way they dress, those requirements, those restrictive things that we talked about, prayer, attendance, and just overall behavior? You know, are Black American Muslim women essentially doing, you know, would you say that they're on point in terms of how they practice Islam?
Some of them, I probably give it a good 45 to 50%
Okay.
are doing what they're supposed to do. That number may be dropping because even though Islam is what it is, American Black women are still born and raised here. And many of us are not born Muslim. You're not born under Islam. If you're a woman born in a Western society, you're a feminist. Period. Because you can't help it.
You say by default, it's just automatic.
By default, because she's learning it as a little girl. This isn't something that women pick up as a grown women. This is socialized. Okay, because even the boys are pick it up. So you're a feminist by default because you can't help it. I did a video a lot where it was a third grader. She's 8, spewing feminist talking points. I don't need no man. She don't know nothing about no man. What she know about a man?
Somebody sent me that video, and I thought about doing some content on it. I just looked at it, and I just put my phone down and just forgot that even exists. I was like, man,
put your phone down, because what does she know about any of that? So she's obviously socialized to it. She doesn't even know it's wrong. She doesn't know that there's a problem with that, because she's being given those things in her formative years. She doesn't have any defense against that because she doesn't know it's wrong. And it's not being presented to her as wrong either. It's being presented to her as this is the way things are. So as a child, she's going to accept that, as any child would. Any child would accept anything that you give them as children, as long as you present it to them as this is the way it is. They're going to take that. I don't care what it is. It could be something crazy. They're going to take it. So you are a feminist, male or female, growing up in this society. In any society that has feminist leaning liberal thoughts, liberal culture, because it's institutionalized, they're going to teach it in school. It's cultural. You're going to see it on TV and music and movies. And it's biological because they're going to shape it in your belief system, right? It's going to be part of what you're taught when you're little. So that's why I say that. So Black women who later may become Muslim still have that gynocratic teaching in them. In order for them to not have that or to get rid of it, they actually have to accept Islam in practice, not just, oh, you know what I'm saying, the Quran is nice and I kind of believe in Allah and I kind of wear some clothes. No, they're going to have to actually practice it and allow it to transform them inside, so that their biology becomes something different than what they were taught when they were little. No more gynocratic thought patterns. Culturally, you watch what you intake. I don't watch certain shows and listen to certain music. I don't do it because I'm not going to indoctrinate myself. I already had all that time to do that. I spent too much time rooting it out. I'm not going to put it back in on my own. So I have to actually, so that take a discipline. You gotta not watch certain stuff. Like years and years ago when like Flavor Love first came out, it was funny. You know, you didn't realize how damaging it was gonna be later on. So it was funny. You watch all of that stuff, but that was the start of all them reality shows. After a while, I stopped watching that stuff. Nope, it's too stupid. It gets you caught up too much in a fantasy world of a bunch of lies and a lot of stupid stuff. So nope. And then my husband at the time, he was like, no, you can't watch that in my house. You can't watch Love and Hip Hop. Boo boo boo. What you thought was going on? Turn that off. We don't do it. And so environmentally, I had to create the environment in my home that didn't allow it. So That's why I'm saying about 45 to 50%, and that number might drop because a lot of Muslim women, Black Muslim women, are still gynocrats with a hijab on, unfortunately.
Yeah. What would you say? But you talked about how, and I agree with you that it's a lot of them. I mean, you just gave a case in point with the girl who was 8 years old who was spewing out a bunch of some of the worst feminist rhetoric that come out of the mouths of a lot of grown Black women. And so that's a situation where it's clearly a case in point where we can see how that was just inceptioned into her mind at that point. She's just going to grow up with that and not even going to even realize where it came from. But what percentage would you say are, they're fully grown, they've thought about it, they know what's right, they know what makes sense, they're just choosing to go this more destructive way?
What do I think about those women? Do you mean the Muslims that just choose? Is that what you're
Well,
talking about?
well, no, I wasn't even talking specifically about Muslims. I was just talking about I was just staying on this whole feminist don't need a man, the way that a lot of just women in this modern time, or Black women in this modern time, are just acting in general. How many of them? Because I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times on the show that they haven't been taught something else, they haven't seen anything else, they've been indoctrinated from the time that they were kids. Do you think that there's a percentage of them that have fully thought about it? Like, it's not even that they're just operating like they don't know any better. No, they know what's going on. They've thought about it. They've heard information from the other side, and they just on some just whatever, I'm going to do what I want type of stuff. How much of it do you think is that, or how much of it do you think is they don't know because they've been indoctrinated, like the girl you showed in the video?
Let's say out of roughly 100% of the women, right?
Mm-hmm.
You probably got about a good 75% of them that they know what they're doing because they're grown. They have seen the destruction. We're actually living in the result of the destruction that feminism has caused us, right? So at this point, with this younger generation, really kind of no excuse. Our older generation, like my mom, kind of had an excuse because they didn't see it. Mm-hmm. Women don't have good foresight, so they don't be seeing the danger way ahead. They only see, they're nearsighted, so they only see stuff right here, right now. Unfortunately, it's been going on a while, so the destruction is right in front of our faces. Even so, there's a large percentage of women, like I said, probably about 75% of the women are doing stuff and they know that this is not gonna work, but they're doing it anyway because it worked right now, or at least they think it worked right now, or I get to do what I want to do right now. We'll worry about the future later. Because women don't have good foresight. Men have better foresight than women do. So men was telling us generations ago, whoa, you can't do that because this is going to destroy things later on. I do what I want to do. You tell me what to do. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff. Right. Now, there is about a good 20% of women that figured it out and actually don't deal with the feminist rhetoric. They don't have it in their life. They don't abide by it. They don't live by it. It's a small percentage, and it's relatively a silent percentage until just now recently, where you're hearing more Black women come up and say, no, we're not feminists either. We don't like this gynocracy, whatever y'all call it. We don't like that. We've never liked it. It's always been stupid. And then you have that good about 5% that's in and out. They know it's not good, but some of the stuff feel good right now, so they do it. And when it fit them, they won't do it. You know what I'm saying? So then you got the ones on the fence. I don't like fence riders. It's like pick a side because somebody gonna pick one for you. if you don't figure out what you got to do. I don't really like fence riders, because fence riders can go either way. And a lot of the fence riders go over into the feminist thing because it's easy. It's easy to do.
Yeah. It sounds like what you're more so getting at is the whole delayed gratification aspect of this thing. Right now in the short term, all of all of that whole ideology, the whole thought process, yeah, it sounds good, yeah, it feels good, and yeah, they can live that for a while, but like I always say, it's going to catch up. At some point they're going to find themselves either over 30, if not over 40, overweight with a couple kids by a couple men, and then it's like, okay, then it's like they wake up then and thinking like, oh, maybe I did need to attach myself to a man, because this ain't working out at this point. So how much of it do you think it's just the fact that, and it's been some studies on this, and some people have called the studies racist, and maybe the studies had their little problems with it, but it is it's delayed gratification when it comes to us Black folks. We don't look at it like that. We don't plan for the future like that. Like, how much of it do you think that is the problem?
We just, especially from the women's side, because like I said, women in general, all women, we don't have good foresight. Mm-hmm. It's just not in us to have. We just don't have it. We're supposed to have insight more than we have foresight. Women probably got about a good month worth of foresight, right? Mm-hmm. Good month or two, couple months. We can try to plan for things in an effective way and have that plan be credible and really work for the time period that we want it to work. Generally speaking, men have the foresight and can solve a problem or attempt to solve a problem before it even presents itself, which is why men have been traditionally holding positions of leadership over women, whether that be local, whether that be in his family, or whether that be on a wide governmental scale. It's usually men, because men can say, okay, we're going to do this right now. How is that going to affect us 5 years from now? What's going to be some of the possible effects, good or bad, in 5 more years? This is why you ask a man, what's your 5-year plan? Mm-hmm. Because he can actually think of it. Well, I intend to be doing this right here, right here, right here. In 5 years, this is probably going to have that effect, or at least I'm hoping to do. Now, it could be problematic if this and that goes on, and I intend to kind of deal with that problem like this. You can't ask a woman her 5-year plan. If it ain't, well, I'm going to school. Well, what else you going to do? I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to work. Okay, well then what else? What else are we doing in 5 years? I mean, I don't know. I'm just going to try, because we don't do that, right? So when we talk about that delayed gratification, that's actually where that comes from. Because as Black people, we've had for many generations a more matriarchal, I don't even like using the word matriarch for the Black community, because it's not really a true matriarch. A true matriarch operates under a patriarchy, but that's neither here nor there. We've had a lot of female guidance, and that don't come with foresight. So a lot of us, male and female, don't think a whole lot ahead about how certain decisions right now are going to affect us later. Case in point, and I hate to bring politics because it's not my wheelhouse. Everybody knows that. But Black people, specifically Black women for the majority, voted for who?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
They want to vote for the
short term of, well, we got to get 45 out of that. Mm-hmm. But nobody thought about, what is he going to do for the next 4 years, though?
Right.
So that's just a case in point about delayed gratification. See, now everybody don't want to talk about it.
Right.
But okay, I digress. I'm gonna leave it alone.
All right, we got who do we have here? Spiritual Wealth, I believe, is this his name here. You got a question, or something to add
Yes.
here. Go ahead. You have the floor. You have the mic. Thank you for coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I want to say peace to you and Crimson Cure. I watch both of y'all, man. Love the content. My question is, do you think this is just the cycle? Like this is just because I study history and stuff like that, and I see that we go through these cycles of pretty much, strong men bending their will, giving it over to women, and then things getting messed up, and then we have to go back, start all over again. So we have different names for it nowadays, but when I look at history, it just seems like a cycle that repeats itself over and over again. So do you think it's more of that, or is this something that's preventable?
It's a cycle. I don't know if it's completely preventable because human beings, we like repeating stuff because we always think if we do it, it's gonna be different. If we do it this time, like they did it 3,000 years ago and it didn't work because they were stupid. But we're not stupid. We're going to do it this way. We're going to tweak it. And then it's going to be different. And then it's not different, right? Because, for example, we're in a time in this country and in this society of decadence. This is where all of this liberal and nobody can and we can just do what we want to do. And nobody has rules anymore because rules are antiquated. Who needs rules? That kind of goofy stuff. But how did Rome fall? What period were they in when they failed?
Exactly.
Right. They were in a period, the same type of period of decadence. Everything was about pleasure. Everything was about leisure and wealth. Nothing was about spirituality. Nothing was about truth. Nothing was about family structures. Nothing was about none of that stuff. And we are living in that time. We're living in a time where paramount to people is leisure and wealth, right? All of these things, the money, the trips you take, you know what I'm saying? Nobody can tell me that now I can just be my own boss and I can make my own rules and nobody has to tell, you know what I'm saying? And truth is lost. Spirituality is made fun of. Family structure is made, we don't need any food. Why do we need families? You know what I'm saying? We don't need the old, that's old. You know what I'm saying? That's old. Nobody live like that no more. You know what I'm saying? We don't gotta live like that. I mean, did our ancestors really thrive that way? I mean, yeah, they did. Goofball, that's why you here. But we always think that it's going to be different when we do it. So civilizations rise and fall, and really they rise and fall for the same reason, no matter what time period it is. We start out with a set of values that work for us. And then there comes along generation at some point in time that feel like that set of values doesn't fit anymore. And then we flip it to another set of values that eventually destroys us. And then we get to the end of that and be like, wait a minute, we need to go back to the older system. And then we start over again. And we just keep doing that. And human beings are going to keep doing that until there are no human beings.
All right. Shout out to D-Rod, came through on the Cash App end as he always does, and KD, who always comes through on the Cash App end. I don't have my phone anywhere near me, so I can't see the Cash Apps, but I just saw it on the email. So I appreciate you brothers supporting and coming through on the Cash App end. I do greatly appreciate that. Spiritual Wealth, do you have you got anything else or any follow-up?
Yes, this is my last question. Of course. So I have
your time. You're the only one in queue. So whatever you got, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
You're
I
not
have
rushed.
a
You're
channel
not rushed.
called Q Bracy where I discuss these things. That's basically my name. I logged into another channel here. But pretty much the question I wanted to ask, because I do a lot of stuff in the manosphere, is, we have different strategies in which men should be doing things in order to restore some type of order. And so, we have like this idea of like MGTOW, of, not getting married. So my question is, what strategies do you guys feel like would be the most effective in order to restore the order that has been lost?
That's a good question. Crimson Cure is a special guest. I was going to give my thoughts on that, but I'll throw it to her because she is a special guest. But that sounds more like a question. Sounds like a question more directed to a man. But she's a special guest here, so I'll let her have that one.
I don't know. I have no idea what the best method would be. I mean, I'm gonna always start with the spiritual things, the internal things, getting those things in order, because those things are out of order. They are, for men and women, a lot of times they're out of order. But in terms of the actual method, the actual plan that would be best for men to utilize to get things back in order, no idea.
Yeah, okay. My take on that is, right now, first things first, the first vote that you have is with your feet, and who you allow into your life, who you allow into your company, who you're going to deal with. That's first and foremost. Now, one of the stumbling blocks with that is me and Lil Big Nate, who's down in the queue. Me and Lil Big Nate can say that, okay, we're going to operate this way, but it's still a relatively high percentage of Black men who are still operating in a completely different way. So a big part of it is converting the masses of Black men to a certain way of thinking before we can even get to the point of restoring order on a macro scale. We're still dealing with the micro of converting, smaller portions, and then eventually a larger portion of Black men. So we're at the ground level of this restoring order thing. But the first thing you can do is restore it in your own life. Restore it in your own life, and support those who are taking efforts and strives to restore it on a macro scale. And it's a lot to that. I'm a firm believer in the media war, the propaganda war, and converting the hearts and minds of people. Then there's a legal aspect of it. Some of the laws need to be changed, and we got to get to work on that. So it's the fight will be fought at so many levels, so many different battles before the war is won. So right now it's at the early stages, but the first immediate vote that you do have is with your feet, and walking away from the individuals that are the problem, and then only allowing those into your life that are not the problem. And I know I said you had all day to ask whatever question you wanted to ask.
I believe you when you said that. I didn't believe you.
What you say? Well, no, you were the only one in queue at the moment, but Lil Big Nate just came up, so I gotta drop you down. I gotta let Lil Big Nate up. But hey, I do appreciate you coming on up. You asked really, really good questions.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely, definitely come back. All right, we are joined by the one and only Little Big Nate in the building. Moderators, y'all know what to do. Drop Little Big Nate's channel. But welcome, Little Big Nate. What's going on? What's on your mind, brother?
What's up, Bernard? Assalamu alaikum, sis. How you doing?
Salam. How you doing? I'm doing good.
Good to finally talk to you, Crimson Cure. We've emailed each other on a couple of occasions, and hopefully we'll be doing some stuff soon. I really do hope to bring you through the channel. They banned me, so I gotta build my channel back up. But and make it a platform that is worthy of you coming on. But I just have one question. And I'll ask more if Bernard wants me to.
No, take your time. No, you got it's your show. You've done this to me before, where you came up just somebody who just called in, and then you started interviewing the guests, and I just fell back and let you have it. So I love
interviewing people. I love it.
I don't mind that right now. You got it. This is your interview, dog. You got it.
I appreciate that, man. All right, Crimson Cure. What is your response to Black women that say that, quote unquote, Black men don't support Black women? When will Black women, and I don't mean the masses of them, I mean, getting that small percentage of them that will be eventually able to be worked with, when are they going to realize that it's not that Black men don't support Black women, it's just a specific type of black woman that gets support, one who's logical. Like, I've heard you talk about how you've had men ask for your hand in marriage, just like based off what you say on the internet. They're so overwhelmed because there's such a deficit of just logical and rational thinking among a lot of Western women and black women in particular.
Wait, hold on. Time out a little bit, Nate. We
Sure, go
we
ahead.
can't skate past that.
I
Crimson
could
Cure
have
is
swore to God she
it-
said that once. I heard
you got. You do have to confirm or deny that, is it because the way Lil Big Nate just described it, it sounded like he was basically saying that some guy just pulled up and said, "Hey, Mrs. Crimson Cure, I saw you on the internet. You were saying some lot of things. I really liked your perspective. Will you marry me?" That's how
I do.
you do get that.
Yeah.
that's how powerful
I get
a
that.
logical woman is.
Like some of it, I know the men aren't
Oh,
super
man.
serious about it. They're like, if I could marry a woman, like it would be you, like that. And then there are men, and most of them Muslim, and I know the Muslim brothers ain't playing.
Right. I was just about to say, yeah.
They be coming up like, sister, you married? Okay, so can we talk? Like, we talk, and we like, here's my name, here's where I'm at. Like, okay, and this isn't even a flex. This is more so like, this is just what I get. I get a lot of men who just contact me and say they like my channel and things of that nature, and don't go no further than that. And then there is a pretty good percentage of men that come up, even non-Muslim men, it's not all Muslim men, and they be like, sister, listen. They give me a whole rundown of their whole life, like their finances, how old they are, where they at, and then they really be like, listen, do you want my number? Like, I'm gonna give you my number, and like you call me, and like we will talk. Like, I will court you. I will court you for marriage. Like, they be dead serious about that, and I literally be having to tell them, like, I do not use my channel for a hookup, please. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am not trying to like get y'all to like propose to me, but I get probably, I would say, serious proposals. I probably get at least one once a month.
Wow. And that just speaks to the power of logic from a woman. I mean, it compels men to do all sorts of things. And my question to you, Crimson Cure, is will black women ever see that? Because again, they get on these platforms, and especially over there in failed black female YouTube, and just run their mouths of no support, no protection, when they're not looking at the types of women that do get that. I mean, of course, I don't know your analytics, but I would imagine the vast majority of the people who support your channel, who put money on your books, are probably black men.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true of most of the women who promote our message, in this space on its periphery. So do you ever see that happening?
I think that
number of ABWs.
I think that the women who have already seen things the way that they are, or who want to see things the way that they are, understand that black men support black women that they see value in. It's just calling a thing. When you want to stick to a narrative, you gotta say certain things about black men. You gotta say, well, you sitting up here talking, they talk, but I bet you they wouldn't pick you, and I bet you they don't really support you, and da 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 da. And it's like, why are you worried about it? You gotta say it because you gotta believe it in order to continue on with the narrative. And let's not, be in the dark about this. Women have a very strong, we very powerful when it comes to making ourselves believe certain stuff. Mm-hmm. We're very good at it. We're also very good at making other people believe those same things. We're very good at that. So they have to kind of stick to it. But the women who support me, the women who are positively affected by the things that I say on my channel, they already know that the men, because the men in their lives support them, right? The men that they know, whether they're married or not, whether they're husbands or fathers or brothers or whatever the case may be, a lot of the women who support me and who come, around me, they already understand that thing because they live it. That's the lived experience that they have. Like, they don't have problems with things like the common complaint. Oh, black men don't protect. I ain't never had no problem with black
I would
men.
imagine so. Absolutely.
I've never had that issue. I don't even know where that come from. And I'm talking about strangers. I'm talking about black men that don't know me from a can of paint that I've never seen again. And if I was in trouble or they thought I was in trouble, they have come almost to put their life on the line and be like, sister, are you okay? Like, can I help you? I've never had that issue with random, old, young. Like last winter, I think I told the story. Young men that was living in the place I was living in before. And it was a real bad winter out that winter. It was a whole bunch of blizzards. But me and my sister decided we needed to go to the store because we needed to go. And so I pull out of the parking space with my car and it gets stuck in the snow. Now it's just me and my sister. The two young men, I didn't ask them. Rambunctious young men that people wouldn't think to, you know what I'm saying? They smoking weed and partying, doing all kinds. They came out of their house. These young men couldn't have been no more than about 25, 24.
Wow.
Came out of their house. You need some help, sister? I said, I would appreciate it. They went and grabbed some shovels and they was humping out there with that snow too. Okay? Got my whole car out. I took my goofy butt back into the parking space like I ain't going nowhere. Listen, because I'll go somewhere else and get stuck. So we just gonna wait. I'm just gonna park the car. Thank y'all for digging it out. And I paid them. You know what I'm saying? Like I paid them. You know what I'm saying? Like they had a little cash out because I was like, y'all got cash out there? Yeah. So I paid each of them because it was two brothers. They didn't have to do that. Right? They could have saw me stuck and looked out the window like, oh, she's stuck. But because of the way that I treated them and the way that they saw me, even though we didn't have a whole lot of interaction, it made them come protect me. That was a form of problem solving and protection from random men. So to answer your question a little bit more directly, I think that women already understand it. The women who understand, we already know. We don't have to be convinced about what black men are and are not capable of, or what they will and won't do for certain women, because black men are generally very chivalrous. They actually like helping. They don't like seeing black women in distress. So they'll try to help if they can, but they don't like being disrespected in that help or being turned away harshly or anything like that. So now in this type of climate now, I think they're a little bit more reticent to extend that help just because of the reaction that they might get. And they don't want to deal with it, which nobody can really blame them. But I think in their heart, they still be wanting to do it because it's like, well, I still want to help her. You know what I'm saying? Just because she's a woman and just because that's what we do. So, but other women who are lost in that whole situation, they're not never going to be convinced because they don't want to be.
But do you know, I've said several times on my channel how, so many of these black women, I attribute the problem to their political allegiance to the left, but they've been turned against their nature. And the feminism and the liberalism and the leftist ideology, it triggers in men a need for us to deny what we want to do inherently for women. Like you said, you see a woman in distress, a man's initial reaction is to want to help her. But when you take into consideration the things women have said, especially black women, all over these airwaves, not needing men, ain't no man going to control me. Men are forced to work against their nature to actually want to assist. We've been turned against our nature. It's really deep when you think about it, but No, I appreciate you answering the question. I just I know what the answer is. It's just, are we ever going to see it in our lifetimes, to any considerable amount? My contention is, let's get the black people that are decent and want to take advantage of living in this country and just get them as far away from all the rest of them, But
Real quick before you formulate, because it looked like you building up to
He's
another
heading somewhere.
question, little big Nate. But okay, real quick, Charles Merchant, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Said, well, he's referring to what we were talking about before. He said, "Get on the arc." Shout out to you. Appreciate the super chat, and shout out to Fitty Fresh in the building. Do appreciate you. He says, "Men creating small community. I think he means small communities where only obedient women are allowed, protected, and they flourish. That's the cure." Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. And there I said it in the building, says Katie Tex. I barely understand what you're talking about there. I got an idea. But anyway, thank you everybody who's supporting the stream, rather super chat, cash app. I do appreciate you. And like I said before, I know most of you probably already subscribed to Crimson Cure, but definitely click the links that I believe RM and other moderators are putting in the chat room. And as I said before, as I always say, they hit Lil Big Nate. They took his channel down. They one of the brothers get knocked down. We help pick them back up. So make sure y'all go subscribe to Lil Big Nate on his new channel. Hopefully moderators are putting that in the chat room as well. But go hit KD. See, okay, one of my biggest supporters' name is KD. See, that's why I got confused. See, I don't even know if she publicly put that name out. No, see, okay, y'all messing up.
No, it's out public.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's easy to find, but I still you. It's not your government name is not your YouTube name. So always get a little cringe. Like, hey, don't be just throwing people government name out there. But it is easy to find if somebody want to look for it. But all right, go ahead, Lil Big Nate. You got it.
Crimson Cure, what is your opinion of what's going on with young black women? Like, one of my biggest fears is watching young black women embrace prostitution. My son used to work at a fast casual dining place. It's pretty well known. And he would come home and we would talk about, if there were attractive women that came in. He's, oh yeah, this gorgeous, badass girl came in. I was like, oh, okay. My son's, he's 23. And I'd say, well, is she black? He said, yeah, she was black. I said, did you holler at her? He said, no, she was with somebody. I said, oh, for real? He said, yeah, she was with some fat old white man. And a few months ago, I asked my son, because this happened probably a couple of dozen times over the 3 years he was employed there. Basically, attractive young black girls coming into this restaurant with fat old white men. They call it sugar baby, but it's prostitution, basically. And how these young girls are embracing this lifestyle. I mean, by the time they're in their early 20s, they're exchanging their pieces of their anatomy for trinkets. And the music supports this, the politics support it, on the left, of course. And are you seeing the same thing? What do you see?
This is a result of what I talk about on my channel when I talk about the lost value system, where things that are internal are not valued. So the spiritual value doesn't have any truth. The health value doesn't have any care. Nobody cares about it. Anytime you'll go down to wherever and get a BBL on the back end of somewhere, you don't care about your health. Family, there's no loving support because we no longer really have either the nuclear family nor the extended family, because you can't have an extended family if you don't have the nuclear family to begin with. When we talk about appearance, there's no standard, right? And when we talk about dwelling value, there's no peace. So we live in a time where the internal values that used to mean something don't mean anything, especially if they're not monetized. Okay, so if you want a piece of me, so that means that everything becomes the transaction. Since there is no moral base, there is no spiritual base, no spiritual truth or anything like that, which is what we really been talking about today, is the lack of that spiritual truth and how that plays into all of the things that we are looking at in terms of Black women's behavior. There isn't any truth in that. So everything becomes the transaction. At the top of the lost value system is wealth, where there's no detachment. Leisure, where there's no limit. So when you have two things that are important, one doesn't have any detachment and one doesn't have any limit to it, then you get this transactional situation. I don't care about making a family. I don't care about all of these different things, especially while I'm young, because I'm told that my value is in the transaction, not in the building of a family. And I can do that when I'm older. This is why you see women in their 30s, even women my age, never been married before. Now all of a sudden, she's been a thought for the last 25, 30 years. Now all of a sudden she want a husband, right? Because at some point, now we laugh at it and oh, she hit the wall and blah, 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 blah. But the reality is, what happens is that the transaction is no longer valid. And so now we start seeing the value in the things that we didn't see value in before, which was the family and all these other internal things. So the reason why I'm saying that is to get to a larger point. When we're talking about, so that's the answer to the sugar baby thing and why younger women are picking up on that, because they're just going deeper into the transaction. They're just going deeper into the lost value system. They're not being taught or told that their internal value means something. We laugh at that stuff. You laugh at a girl that want to be calling herself, spiritual, or she want to call herself, she gonna be a virgin. She's 16 and she's still a virgin. What you holding it for, girl? All this other kind of stuff. Like they was doing that back when I was in high school. So I know it's even worse now, especially with social media and all of the influence and all of the the invitation that they're receiving for it. If you're a 15, 16, 17-year-old girl now and you flip on Instagram and you see all these chicks with all these dudes underneath it, because what's the new currency now is likes and shares and views and attention. And women like attention. All women like attention, right? But now there's no distinction between bad attention or good attention. All of it is good attention. So then you get this girl that she want to get on there. Now let's just say she ain't got to go get a BBL. Her body just nice anyway because she young. So now she gonna start pushing little back shots. And you know what I'm saying? Maybe that wasn't even how she was raised. But at this point, she's getting influence from outside of her house that may be stronger than the influence inside of her house. So she's doing the things to be accepted by the group. She's doing stuff to be accepted by other girls. She's doing stuff so she can flex on the gram, because that's what's important to a teenager girl in 2022. So I hope that I kind of answered your question.
Oh no, I absolutely.
Okay.
What's frightening is, like, you talk about foresight and how women don't have it. You would think these young girls would have the foresight to see their moms, their aunts, their girlfriends, their cousins, almost none of them successful in the sexual marketplace in relationships, and would ask why. Not even asking why. I mean, they head down the same road that all their forebears did without even thinking about it. That they're so easy to lead in the wrong direction. It's just, it's blows my
But
mind.
see, that's not even a function of foresight. That would be a function of hindsight. Looking into the past to see where mistakes may have been made. But the thing about that is, I think the younger generation of girls, the youngest ones, are starting to kind of see that a little bit. Like, wait a minute, my mama and my grandmama and all that kind of stuff, they're not living this fantastic life.
No.
They not. I don't want to do that. So you're seeing a little bit more younger women say, I don't think I want to do what my mama did. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason, she ain't really doing. It's not fabulous, right? Because she be having a little man sometime, but I don't think he really like her all that much. He's certainly not around all the time. He ain't none of my daddy. So I don't want to deal with him, and I don't want to be in her situation where she kind of be struggling a little bit sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Now that she older, seem like she should have a husband, but she don't. And I don't want to be old and then don't have nobody around me. So the younger women, I think, are starting to do a little bit more waking up, because they're gonna be the ones that go into to a different world than their moms and grandma. See, if this grid do what we all hoping it don't do, she's in a whole different world. Even the boys don't view it the same as the older men before them. See, they're being taught, and if it took that we all equal. So I don't have to cater to you as a girl. Remember that. You're equal, right? So I don't got to do all of that catering and all that our the big homies did. I ain't doing none of that stuff. Because you'll see a boy jump a girl now, and he don't care. See, even back when we was in school, it was shameful, boy, to just jump a girl like that. So
I think that speaks to how far things have devolved. You know, if women are insisting that they're equal to men, and I mean, just the incidents of violence where it's on video, women attacking men, it's like, why not treat them like that? They're equal. There is no difference. I mean, popular culture, the left all promotes the idea that, men can be women, women can be men. All the lines of natural order have been blurred. Like you said earlier, there is no right, there is no wrong. You just do whatever you feel. And my last question was this. What is your response to the men in this space who insist that no women belong? Like, all women are going to be disingenuous with their message. They're all here just to make money. Is that true of some of them? I'm sure it probably is. But I don't think it's true of all the women that exist in this space. What is your response to the men in this space who say women don't have a place here? I think women serve a pretty good purpose here, in the sense that, the optics it gives, helping us challenge the idea that we're a bunch of misogynists and stuff. Women aren't going to promote a misogynist message. It just doesn't make any sense. But what's your opinion, or what would you say to the men here who see women not having any value, existing on the periphery of this space or in this space, and promoting our message?
I don't completely agree, obviously, because I'm in the space as a content creator, but I can see how some men feel that way because of the lack of male spaces that are truly just male spaces that they don't necessarily have to share with women, because societally it don't really exist. All male spaces, all female spaces exist, but all male spaces not so much. Used to be, but now at this time, it's more like, well, if there's a man space, then in order to promote equality, you gotta have women in it too. But the reverse is not true. If there is a woman space, you don't have to have men in it in order to have equality, because they still working on that false narrative about men being more privileged and all that other stuff. But I actually understand some men saying, okay, we don't really want women in the space because they can be a distraction to the men, or we just flat out don't trust them. We just flat out don't trust women. We lost faith in them. We don't believe that they add value to the conversation or in any way, shape, or form to what we're talking about. We just want a space that's us, that's not them. And so they should leave. So I definitely see it. I just don't completely agree, because if we're talking about Black women and their behavior, then we have to at some point accept the fact that there's going to be a percentage of Black women that actually listened to that and took it to heart and said, okay, we probably should have some introspection and think about what we've been taught, what we've been doing, and seeing it as normal, and being told that it's not normal. It's actually not normal. It's been detrimental. And I was just doing it because that's what I learned how to do. And now that there's a different perspective, men are coming to share their lived experience and saying, no, hasn't been a good idea. You know, I ain't been doing good by it. And so many other men who've come from different places and different family structures and different backgrounds are having a similar experience about it. So it's got to be something there. Like, they ain't all coming together to lie. So there is a percentage of women that did take it to heart and say, okay, let me actually listen. And they're coming from a genuine space. Now, I'm not going to say every woman is going to do that, because we know better than that, right? We know better than that. But at the same time, there is going to be a percentage of women that actually do take it, whether they come on, because all of them not going to try to be content creators either. I know a lot of the women that follow me have no interest at all in being content creators at all, but they do take what I say and they apply it in their personal lives, because they come back and tell me that that's what they've done, and it has helped them have better relationships with their husbands, better relationships with their sons, and things of that nature. So
yeah, I think what a lot of it has to do with, when you talk about people who say there should be no women in the space. It's something I've been paying attention to lately. You know, it happened in what we call the white manosphere, and now it's happening right now, literally right now in the Black manosphere under a different name. But the thing that I'm referring to is that there are some people who just have a MGTOW philosophy, and when those are the ones saying women have no place in this space, no voice in this space, if you see them comment in the chat room, block them, delete them on site, get them out of there. I understand if you're a MGTOW or somebody, or just a MGTOW who's not going by the name MGTOW, because there's a lot of that in the Black manosphere. Shout out to Edward Anderson, he pointed that out recently. And then, so that's one branch of it, and then the other branch of it is the more traditional conservative types, that are more in line, like with, you know, the MRAs, the traditional conservatives. There's a aspect of that in the Black manosphere, and that's where me and Lil Big Nate would probably fall more under that traditional conservative type men. And you know, those who think along our lines, yeah, we don't mind women in the space. There's just a certain type of conduct that should come with it from those women. So there's one side that's good with it, then there's another side that just draws a hard line, just hell no, we won't go when it comes to women being in the space. And those are essentially Black men who are MGTOW but don't go by the name. that's what I'll call them. And that's what we're seeing right now in the Black manosphere. And we're also seeing, I mean, we saw that in the manosphere as a whole. The MGTOWs always had a problem with the traditional conservatives, the trad cons. They call them trad cucks. You know, they think that those are the men that are sending men back into the slaughterhouse because they want to work things out with women. So that's really what you're seeing right there. And I'm not willing to say it needs to be an absolute separation. I think those two different sides could find some common ground and stop fighting, but it's always been a fight between the more traditional men and the more going their own way, you know, free agent. Shout out to Coach Greg Adams, free agent lifestyle types. It's always been a back and forth between that, and then when certain personalities get a hold of it, it turns into full blown civil war. Yeah, civil war. Yeah, literally. That's what's happening. That's literally what's happening. But shout out to Savant 88 came through with a hard. I can't even talk no more. Y'all know when it get late in my show, I forget how to talk. But Savant 88 came through with a heavy-handed super chat. Says, keep up the good work, Bernard. Much respect to Crimson. Definitely thank you, and I appreciate that super chat. Shout out to Big Poke Dog in the building, came through with a super chat. Shout out to Ace, says remove all female exclusive government taxpayer subsidies, then gynocracy will fail. Thank you for the super chat, appreciate that. E Capone in the building says got 5 on it. BR, good morning Crimson Cure and Nate. And Uncle Stu, the old man on the block, says salute little big Nate show. I am trying to reach out to you for an interview, support for the stream. Definitely I think I always forget your email, but the best way to contact you is via 11.
I'll put it in the chat.
Cool. And there I said it. All right, I already read that one. All right, we almost at the 2.5 hour mark. We could pretty much wrap this thing on up. Little Big Nate, if you got anything else
sure.
Else you want to throw out there?
I would love for Crimson Cure just to address this issue. It's one I haven't really heard. Well, I've never asked a woman to address it. Black women love to talk about protection, and my contention is you can't protect what you can't control. And they insist on men not having any control over them. They don't make distinctions. They don't say, I don't want these bad men not having control over me. I don't want these abusive or manipulative or men that take advantage having control over me. They say men, period, are to have no control over me. Could you speak to the fact that men can't protect what they can't exercise some modicum of control over? That's if you agree with that idea.
Women understand that. Women understand that. They just don't want men to be trying to tell them what to do. See, just because they have a talking point don't mean they don't understand the other side of it. They're just rejecting the other side of it. Here's why I say women understand it, because a lot of women have children, don't they? And so when women have children, we automatically understand that we want our children to do what we say. And the things that we say to them are designed to protect them from various different types of threats or problems that they run into because they don't know no better and they need guidance and need somebody to tell them no, and they need rules and regulations and all of that. But they also understand that if the child is out of control, then the rules and regulations don't work. So if they can't control any part of that child, the child's environment, they can't control, what the child does or where the child goes or any of those things, then the leadership that the mother would give a child falls into disrepair because she can't really implement it because she can't really control that child. Okay, she don't really have control over the different things that's going on with the child. So therefore, she can't protect that child. If she give the child rules and regulations and say, okay, when you go to school, I don't want you to leave campus and go over here because it's dangerous to go over there for lunch. Stay in the school and have lunch. If the child leave her presence and goes off campus, not doing what she say, and then they fall into problems, her protection wasn't there. But why wasn't it there? Because the child was out of control. The child did what they wanted to do, and she wasn't there to stand right there and say, don't do that. So women understand that concept because we understand the raising of children. Well, most of us do, some of us don't. But we understand that concept. So we know that in order to have protection with something, that you actually have to have some say over that thing, because we don't want to be held responsible for stuff we don't have control over. Like conversely, I don't want to be held responsible for the maintenance of the building I live in, because I don't control the maintenance of the building I live in. Why would you blame me if stuff don't get done? Since when you give me the power, you know what I'm saying, to make sure stuff did get done? So how you gonna blame me when it don't? Women understand that concept. They just don't want men to exercise that control, because it is control, because it is a rule, because it does restrict. And we are being taught and brought up in a society that says that we shouldn't be restricted. Men can have rules, but women shouldn't have rules other than the rules they make for themselves, because we don't want men to be somewhere calling themselves controlling me and then being able to tell me what to do, because then he want to be controlling and all of this other kind of foolishness. We get to bring up the patriarchy, and we get to bring up abusive situations that we didn't actually live. You know what I'm saying? And then we didn't actually see, and all of that kind of stuff. You know, we get to bring up the color purple narratives, you know, all of these other kind of stuff to avoid the control that a man would have, because we always associate a man's control with some sort of abuse.
Yeah, good stuff, man. This was an excellent interview. Thank you to Lil Big Nate for coming up and being a part of this, and definitely
thank you, man. Thank you, and thank you, Crimson Cure. Thank you.
Yes, and that's definitely special thanks to Crimson Cure, who's man, I can't say enough to how good of a look it is, just that, you know, a channel like yours is taking off the way that it's taken off. I always say that I was crossing my fingers hoping you had something like 50-50 when it came to male female subscribers. Hopefully you'll get there someday. Women definitely need to hear your message. Well, I mean, it's just the fact that it's grown that big. I mean, a relatively, you know, a decent number of women are getting your message. So that's definitely a good thing. So we're going to wrap things up. Again, thank you to everybody who supported the show, whether you super chat, cash app, hit the like button, or just watched in indifference. If you was hate watching from the clouds, I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who was a part of this. And again, once again, thank you so much to the Crimson Cure for coming on through. And with that said, everyone, we are out of here. I gotta get some little nice outro thing. I don't got none of that going on, but we out of here. Peace. Thank you.